Tree Country 1330 WTRE. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Emily, and everyone in WTRE country.
Yes. It's a little warmer out this morning.
It is. And plus, you've got us a fancy new intro.
I do. You like it?
It's great.
All right.
We're excited. I know that's been something you and the team's been working on. It goes along with the online YouTube streaming sort of podcast style that WTRE is moving towards, which is great.
Yeah, joining the new century, right?
Well, we're getting there. So you can go online and follow along. I know you and I've done this a little bit with the Live at 5 and the fair and the Tree City Fall Festival. So we're old pros at this now, too.
We are.
We're just bringing it to the airwaves.
Exactly. Well, you've had a busy couple weeks going on.
We have. Yeah, this week, of course, was our monthly meeting schedule. We're going to change that up a little bit in May. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. So our first week of meetings is all going to move to the first Tuesday of the month. That will allow our board members and our teammates to consolidate their time a little bit, but then also our friends in the media who send reporters over to cover those meetings are able to get them done in one night versus spread out across two. And it's about the same amount of time because we're able to get some efficiencies in our schedule by doing it this way. So our board members are very supportive of it. Our teammates are very supportive, and then our community partners as well. So that starts next month. But this week was the big Board of Works and City Council meeting. So those always are full of items, and it is springtime in Decatur County. So lots of road closure options coming through. Of course, we heard about the Tree City Rolling Tour last month. And this month, the Mayor's Youth Council came over and talked about their 5K color run.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fun. I don't know that I would actually like getting chalk thrown at me.
Get it thrown at your face.
No.
Run through.
No. I wouldn't be running anyway. But we definitely wouldn't want to participate, or I'm not going to participate in that. But it definitely is a lot of fun. And last year, about 100 people participated. So
very nice.
Yeah, they're expecting well more than 100. June 14th, it is going to start out at Rebecca Park, and then it will be there on the school campus. And they were asking for some assistance from Greensburg Police there at the crossing on Central, and then the fire department comes in and hoses all the chalk off of all the pavement and different pieces so that the event space is as they found it.
It's a very community-oriented project. It takes everybody.
It does.
To do that one.
And it's a lot of fun. They had a great opportunity last year. It was new, so this is the second one for them. And if you want to find out more information, they have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. Please reach out to them, or we can get you in contact with them, and they will get you registered. I know they've got some early registration, like you guarantee a T-shirt and those kinds of things, which is a part of the color run. You get the white T-shirt, which then shows up on the colors better.
And color splash it.
That's right.
It's like having a little bit of tie-dye, right?
That's right,
With
yeah.
chalk. Yeah,
exactly.
as you run through it. Yeah, I like it. Well, I know that Chief McNeely spoke at the City Council meeting as well and talked about the Motorola contract coming up, as well as the CIT that's kind of taking place here in Decatur County.
Yeah, so then over at the City Council level, there was the Motorola conversation. He did a really good job of explaining what this is. A lot of us, don't interact with this system ever, but from the moment you call 911, there is this whole back-end process that helps geolocate where you are, brings up information that's in the system about you, tells the dispatchers, who, if you need EMS or fire or police or sheriff or who to send, and then it provides that information in their car. All the call logs and contents are kept with the call, and it actually ends up going all the way through the process to when the prosecutor uses the information in a criminal case. So this system really is the backbone of public safety, and we've had Motorola for years. They are the leader in this space, but they are moving away from physical location-based programming and moving to cloud-based. So if you think about maybe the way that Microsoft Word used to be on your computer, and you had Microsoft Word as long as you had the computer, whereas now you sort of, air quotes, rent it as a part of the Microsoft suite. Same thing is happening here. Over the next 5 years, that contract's over $400,000. But by moving to the subscription-based services, we're able to actually reduce our cost on that a little bit. We do share the cost between the Sheriff's Department, Greensburg Police Department, and then Dispatch, which is a 50-50 funded department between the City of Greensburg and Decatur County. So we are partners across our public safety platforms with them. And then also EMS and fire and volunteer fire do use the system as well. So it's a big one, and not really much we can do about it. You have to have it. It is just sort of a part of cost of doing business, but the increases are real. People talk about increased costs that are uncontrollable. We kind of really can't have public safety. We cannot have a 911 dispatch center without it. And they say the price is going up, and unless you want to get rid of 911, you pay it. And so that's one of those items that's an uncontrollable cost. I know there's a lot of conversations going on at the state level about budgets and future funding. That's one of those that you just have to sort of, whatever the private sector says, is what we do.
All right. Now, I do want to touch on weather. We'd had some yucky weather this last weekend, as we're talking about the police department. Required a little bit extra assistance throughout the city and the county. We
were very fortunate. Can look at our friends down on the river, or my cohorts in our Southeastern Mayor's Regional Group. We don't have the river flooding issue, which is great. They're seeing some near historic records. I talked to Mary Fredon, who's the mayor of Columbus, on Tuesday at a meeting we had. And she was in good spirits. They've had tremendous impacts over there. Seems maybe a little less devastating than the 2008, but I think numbers-wise very similar as far as the river flood stage. It just wasn't quite as impactful, which is great and good to see. But overall, our teams did an amazing job, GPD, GFD, and then our utilities crew, too. A lot of people don't realize, but our water plant runs 24/7, 365. It is staffed around the clock, and they have to deal with incoming water issues, right? We're a river intake facility, so we were able to shut that down and use the reservoir. Takes management, takes lots of planning. But then on the other end, our wastewater crew was extremely busy in this instance of severe weather, as we typically run about 3 to 4 million gallons per day through the plant. That's a typical day for us. The plant maxes out at 16 million gallons, which is very high and a pretty high bar for us to hit. Sometimes, 10 to 12 in a rain event is not uncommon. 16 is pretty high. We were well over 25 million gallons for a lot of hours. So we had that place up and running full bore, 24 hours for I think it was about Thursday night, Friday night into Sunday night. And so Superintendent Joe Kane, who we just appointed to that role about a month ago, got his first major issue with his team. The team did an amazing job responding. Many appreciations and kudos to them for stepping up, answering the phone at 2 a.m., shifting weekend plans, and working in an environment that changes rapidly, because while it may stop raining, it doesn't stop flowing, and our teams really did a great job, gave up their time and weekend, and we had well over 100 extra hours of labor in the weekend. So appreciate that team who works behind the scenes. They don't show up out. You don't see them out in public, but they're at our lift stations. They're keeping the system working, and I think overall we had a very successful storm response on the city of Greensburg side, but then we've also been very fortunate to have not had any of the severe flooding damage that a lot of other communities experienced.
Yeah, I saw pictures down by Aurora, and that just looks devastating at this point. So
yeah, and the mayor of Madison was at the meeting I was at on Tuesday as well. We spent some time chatting about what they're facing, and they were very, very confident that they were going to be able to get a statewide or a state disaster declaration, which frees up some opportunities, funds, red tape. But then they were also working towards a federal declaration because of the impact of the entire Ohio River. So they've got a long ways to go, and some of those stories coming out of there are really interesting. People that removed all of their cabinets and appliances and everything from their house in preparation of it, which worked, I guess. And then I saw down in Louisville where a restaurant actually took everything out that they could, and flooded it with clean water from the tap, so that it would hold out the river water, and so that they didn't have to clean the mud and the dirt and everything up. And the owner was there showing this video of about 4 foot of clear water inside the restaurant, holding out the mud water.
What forethought on that?
Right. And what bravery to say, I'm just going to preemptively flood.
I'm just going to do it.
Yeah. But, that's I've not heard of that before, but there you go.
Interesting. All right. Well, still in the city council meeting, the sale of the Railroad Street property. I think some people have some confusion on what that exactly entails and what that means.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, but we actually we've owned it for 10 plus 15 years, somewhere in there. The empty gravel lot that is sort of behind where Martin Overhead Doors is now. We came into the ownership of that property, I think, due to some dilapidation that was happening with it. And we've never really had a use for it, and it just sort of sits there and is a big gravel space. The project that the Redevelopment Commission is working on over on the old jail lot, Ironman Properties, the apartment complex, they are parking conscious. They want to be sure that their residents have got places to park, and we want to be sure that they have places to park. As we all know, people have a lot of opinions about parking in downtown. So they came to us and asked if we would be willing to sell that. We hadn't really talked to them about it, but they were looking outside the bubble and thinking outside the box as a way to help alleviate some of their pressure. So we said, yeah, that makes a ton of sense. We're not using it. You're going to make an investment in it. You're going to improve it. You're going to turn it into a nice looking paved, curbed, landscaped lot. And your people can use it. And they're willing to let it, continue to be some available public parking, but that's also up to them. But they're actually going to need it. I mean, 88 units with 100 plus beds. I mean, those kinds of things, you do need some parking space. And it's a great use of infill lots. It's not really it's on a public street. Railroad Street's a public street. Most people think it's an alley. So it's a great way to utilize that. It's a great use to continue to make investments in our downtown and drive economic development, get foot traffic and people that want to be at the branch or at the restaurants or at the shops. And I think it's a great use of that isn't being used. Not only is it underutilized, it's like not useful.
Not used, yeah.
Nobody's else come forward looking at it, and this will be a great way to make improvements in downtown, benefit an economic development project, get some disposable income into our community and those that want to live in downtown. So the council did opt to sell that to the developer for the average of the two appraisals, which is great. And it will be contingent on them getting all of the deal done with the Redevelopment Commission, but I'm very optimistic that will happen. The last sort of straw in that is getting the Indiana Economic Development Corporation redevelopment tax credits approved for Ironman. That's a state-level decision. We don't really have anything to do with that. That's between them and the developer. So hopefully that project will make some progress rather quickly.
Very good. What else went on at the City Council?
Those were sort of the big ones. We did have a MOU with the county for the crisis intervention team, the CIT team. That's what came from the Lilly money that the County Community Foundation is managing. So we've established our executive committee that will oversee that. It's the sheriff, myself, the police chief, and a commissioner. And then we have appointed someone in the health and wellness space. So Liz Owens is actually going to serve in that capacity. So it's a great opportunity to work on a different type of response for first responders to those that are in crisis or need upon arrival or even pre-arrival of first responders. So they are going to be housed technically under the sheriff. They are special deputies under the sheriff's department, but we've also done job interviews. So we have the director, and then offers have been extended to the two CIT sort of caseworkers, if you will, and that team is being built. So the MOU with the county is approved. That gives us a little bit of guidelines. It sets up that body. It sort of lays out how funding is going to work in the future after the grants. Sort of gives everybody a little bit of direction. It's not a very complicated document. It's only about 3 pages. We obviously already work with Decatur County on 911. So we're 50-50 partners on the dispatch communications center that we talked about earlier. We're 50-50 partners on our IT department and team. So we have a staff of 3 that work for the county, but it's joint city-county operations that oversee all of the IT for the city and county. And then we are 50-50 partners on the animal control, again, a county agency that we fund with 50% of their budget. So this is no different. It's sort of our 4th a joint venture together, which is great. Since I've been here, we've established the IT department and now this. So 2 predate me and 2 are under my short time here. So we are really working towards efficiencies and making sure that we're providing the best services we can. But we're bringing dollars to those departments, and then in exchange we get services from them.
I think some don't understand that Lilly grant money originally, it's a $5 million grant that came to the community. So that's kind of the seed money for this program.
Yeah, we
Part of
think
it.
the idea is that the CIT program, which is not a new concept, it's just new to us, is able to be funded 5 to 6 years with that money. There are some other things that money can be used for. So not all $5 million goes to CIT, but a pretty large majority of it does. And then we will work on finding local funding. We have, a 5-year runway, which is an incredible opportunity because a lot of times when we have something like this, there isn't that kind of runway. With your work at the community healthcare clinic, grants typically are very short in time and very short in dollars. So a multi-million-dollar grant that can run something for years is a really, really great proving grounds, test grounds. We can go out, we can hire staff. 26 calls already, I think, since February 1st for the CIT team, which shows there's a need. It's becoming more known, and we're making some great progress. So we've got a runway to figure it out. We just can't sleep on it, and I think both bodies are committed to that.
Very good. And then we touched a little bit on Board of Works, but any other business from Board of Works this week?
Fall festivals got their stuff approved, so it's hard to believe we're already talking about the fall festival. There was a pretty big one other road closure in September. Of course, there'll be plenty of time to talk about this, but Chris Ramey is coming to do this downtown car show on Sunday, September 7th, so he's working to get some businesses to be open. It's they're on Broadway, which will be a great opportunity to spend some time in downtown on a Sunday, so please, take note of that. It's a great opportunity. The other one is the owner-occupied rehab that we talked about last week pretty extensively. I'll remind you again that application is only open till the end of this month. There's an opportunity you can get your roof replaced, HVAC, water heaters, and ADA access to the door. So you'll want to take a look at that. It's available on the City of Greensburg's website. There's an application process. It's not terribly complicated. You do have to live in the City of Greensburg. It's low to moderate income. There's a big chart for that you'll have to take a look at. And then you do have to own your home and you have to live in it. So those are the big ones. But if you're interested in that, please complete a form and then they will get it reviewed.
There's a substantial amount of grant money that's available for that.
Yeah, we were able to bring $350,000 from OCRA, which is the Office of Community Rural Affairs. It's overseen by the Lieutenant Governor. Again, had an opportunity to talk to him on Tuesday for about 15 minutes about what's happening at the General Assembly, but also give him thanks for selecting the City of Greensburg as one of these 4 communities across the state that received them. So we were able to bring $350,000 into the community, and the city council did have to contribute $50,000 from the budget, which they did. But that's a great matching opportunity. It's a great impact to have on residents in our community investing in their homes on those big ticket items. So.
And where can they find that grant application at?
It's available on the City of Greensburg's website. It's there's like a button that says OOR, Owner Occupied Rehab. And if you would rather have a physical copy, you can pick one up at the front desk at City Hall.
All right, perfect. Board of Works have anything else this last week?
I think those were the big ones for the most part. Lincoln Street, geez. Washington Street is going to move into the intersection of Broadway on Monday the 14th. So that will be closed for about a month. So you'll want to be cognizantly aware of that. Businesses and shops are still open. Everything will remain open even as we move on down Washington Street like it was on Franklin. But this whole Broadway thing is going to be a little bit of a pain. There's going to be no parking sort of there at the very far north end, where sort of in front of Pickers and Phase Financial, where you'll be able to turn around. If you happen to drive a semi, please do not drive down Broadway. That would be very helpful. Thank you. But everybody else will be able to turn around. It will just be a little tighter, a little bit more frustrating. It's 1 month. There's a major storm sewer system feature that's being put under that intersection. And, it's a little bit of pain for a long time gain in that, a month. And then when we get it all done and come back and get all the pavement done, which will be done by the fall festival, then we'll be good to go for, 20 years.
And it'll block right at that intersection. So as far as the bank being there on the corner, what's that accessibility? That'll be open where they can get through?
You'll be able to get in from the north. You'll be able to come down from the north, sort of by the old YMCA there, and the drive-through is reopened. So the drive-through was closed for about a week. They were very good to work with us on that, but you can still use the drive-through, and of course they have that back entrance as well by the drive-through, so that's available as well.
accessibility will be at its top notch that it can during that time. So.
Yes, and Shooty Excavating, a great local contractor, has been phenomenal to work with. He worked with all of our businesses on Franklin Street. He's been doing the same main alley back at Main Street's been really helping spearhead that as well. So everyone is cognizantly aware of access being available. It's going to be a little bit of a mess, but we will make it, and it'll be fine, and we will be out of there as quick as possible to make sure we get it all put back together and get it cleaned up. And it looks, Franklin Street's great. We are going, I know some people have asked about Broadway. There's a lot of pavement failure happening in Broadway. We are going to repave all of that at the same time. So Broadway on to the north will get repaved as a part of the Washington Street project.
Very nice.
Too. So. Yeah. We'll have 3 of the 4 sides of the square. Now, we're not doing any. We're going to do some of the landscaping needs to be replaced, etc. But curbing and everything else on the west side staying the same. But we'll have new asphalt, new lines, and all of the above when we get done at the end of the year.
Be very pretty.
It will be great, and it definitely needs it. I drive Broadway all the time, as I'm sure most people have realized. There's a lot of pavement failure happening in there. But again, that project, well over a decade old now, maybe 15 years, and it's time to replace.
So let's switch gears and talk a little bit more statewide. And property taxes have been an ongoing discussion.
Sure.
And you've spent some time at the State House.
It's it's a little challenging to get too much into the weeds about this, as we've talked in the past. We've been following it really closely. There's been a lot of discussion. I know people's property tax bills have gone out and hit mailboxes. A couple really important points to remember is we pay in the arrears, and then actually for the overarching tax rate for the city, if you live in the city, is actually about the lowest. It is the lowest it's been in 15 years. So the tax rate is lower than it has been historically. It's being driven by assessed values, which we've talked about, extensively here on this program, and that, homes are worth more. They just are. If you bought a house 7 years ago for $100,000, it's well worth more than $100,000 today. We also see where assessed values lag market value. The state constitution says it's supposed to be market value. That's the Indiana state property tax system, is market value. So we lag that, and it had a lot of catching up to do, and then that was tied in with the COVID numbers and increase in pricing. So it's been a little bit of a perfect storm. That's sparked a big conversation at the General Assembly about property taxes. At our level, it's not about the rate, it's about the assessed values. Again, supposed to be market driven and typically are under AV'd, assessed valued anyway. But at the state level, there's been this, the governor's been pushing for this meaningful property tax relief. They had this huge bill that was incredibly devastating to local units of government, as we have talked about also very extensively. The state of Indiana, which everyone talks about their surplus all the time in state revenues, is not tied to property taxes at all. They are sales tax and income tax based. So when they talk about property taxes, they are not talking about their revenues. They're talking about the school systems and units of county governments and cities and libraries and solid waste and townships. All 6 of those here in the city are funded by property tax dollars. So it gets quite frustrating when they start talking about their surpluses and how they're going to cut property taxes to help. And it's like, well, that doesn't actually move that needle. And at the local level of government, we spend well over 60% of our property tax dollars go directly to police and fire. And so public safety funding is a massive part of our local budget and is the driver, honestly, of that. If you think about our water and wastewater utilities, those are not funded by tax dollars. Those are funded by user fees. And then street and sanitation is split a little bit. So when you pay your trash bill, you're paying for a part of the street and sanitation department. And then MVH, which is motor highway vehicle, which is gas tax, funds a part of that and funds a lot of the infrastructure. So when you start looking at the total revenues generated from property taxes for our community, it's a large number, but a huge percentage of it goes to police and fire. And then outside of that, the next biggest chunks are health insurance, property insurance, liability insurance, and like generalized contractual services, if you will. So financial, legal, all the things that we have to have in order to operate. There is almost zero discretionary spending in property tax funds in the city of Greensburg. If you want to make the argument that the number of personnel is discretionary, then I guess you could make that argument, but it's generally funds our team. So it's a big deal when people start talking about cutting it. Now, let's skip to where we are in the General Assembly session. There have been numerous versions. There have been numerous threats of vetoes and vote downs and pass-throughs. On Friday, the original bill, I believe, was less than 100 pages, which you say that's a lot, and it is a lot, but the version that was released on Friday afternoon at 3:30 is 350 pages-ish, right in there somewhere. It is an incredibly complicated tax bill that shifts burdens, reduces business personal property tax, which is not Hoosier citizen tax relief. It's business tax relief, but that's been inserted and injected. And it's incredibly, incredibly complicated. As you might imagine, our association went to work over the weekend. We got some information about what that looks like. And then Monday, they they passed through the 350-page version of that in a committee hearing. Tuesday, I was in Indianapolis with about 50 other mayors from across the state, and I talked to I think 6 or 7 reps and 4 or 5 senators from across our region, not just ours, which are great. I give our reps and senator a lot of credit for always being accessible. And 15 minutes with the lieutenant governor to talk about, he oversees the Senate as a parliamentary procedure perspective, to talk about what it is that we're doing and why and how that impacts us. And then yesterday, there was an amendment that restructured it again. They didn't eliminate 300 pages of text, but really changed a lot of the meaning. So we're still trying to sift through that. Again, we're back to talking about business taxes here, in that the floor for the de minimis use in business personal property tax goes from $80,000 to $2 million under this bill. So that's a huge number. That's a huge change. It actually eliminates business personal property tax starting July 1st for new property acquired at July 1st this year, which is a really big deal for long-term financial planning. Doesn't really help you and I as a homeowner. So I feel like we've really shifted gears here. And then there's a few things in there about homestead tax credits being phased out and then phased in. We went from a $200 credit to a $300 credit on residential property taxes. So it's unbelievably complicated. It's very, very convoluted. They are going to vote. The analysis that is happening is they're going to vote that through today on third and final reading, and then it will head to the Senate, where they could, I think, in theory, vote on it as early as tomorrow. I don't know if they're in session because tomorrow is Friday, but they've got their session ends the 28th. The governor issued his support for this plan yesterday. I'm sure he actually sent out a release, but since everybody's all about being on X, his release was on X. And it's just moving incredibly, incredibly fast. It's unbelievably complicated. I have a lot of concerns about it. All units of government should have a lot of concerns about it. And I think, honestly, Hoosier taxpayers should have lots of concerns about it, because I don't know that we really fully understand what's in it. And it's being touted as historic tax relief, but we haven't had time to run the numbers to show how that will actually impact folks that live here. The Indiana property tax system is a pretty good system. I know people get grumpy about it, but if you look, we are one of the we are one of the best rated tax states in the country. And when you look at a 1% cap on property taxes on your assessed value, yeah, maybe your assessed value is up, but that's a very low number. And other states that have high income tax and have low property tax, or however they structure that, every state is different. And just like in Indiana, every community is different based on tax rates and tax caps and circuit breakers and, assessed values and who assesses them and what, and how much of something you have, how much commercial value you have versus how much resident. It is an incredibly complicated system. But if we have time to run the numbers, our financial team can show exactly what is going to happen to the city of Greensburg. And then my job is to relay that to our legislators. If you pass a 326-page bill on Friday, you vote on it on Monday, and you pass it on Wednesday, and it's going to the Senate on Friday.
That's fast.
I don't have time. They don't have time not only to understand an incredibly complex bill, but then to apply that not only to us, we're not their only client, to clients across the state, and then for me to get that information to them to dissect it, understand it, and advocate for it becomes very, very challenging. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
It's a lot of words in 7 minutes about property taxes.
You did really well, though.
It's frustrating because we have time. There is time. There has been time. There's just not a generalized consensus on which way they want to row the boat. And I think a lot of people are going to get caught in the crosshairs. I think a lot of people, and I might harken back to this. So if you're listening, when we get to 2026, which is 25 pay 26, the impact, the reduction, this meaningful property tax may not be there. So just because everybody's different, every structure is different, and it's not like we can do something at the local level to really change that. I just don't know if it's being sold in a way that is truly as impactful as they claim. We'll see. I could be wrong, but just be on notice that it may not be as impactful as some are saying it can be.
It's just a lot of unknown at this. Well, it's known in the 300 and some pages, but the full understanding is very unknown to general public.
Yes, and I would even make the argument that it's unknown in the 326 pages, because to think that that is exactly right and that all of the math is going to math and that every and is there and not an or, it may not, I'm sure it's possible. There's a lot of really smart people that write that stuff, but it may not even be possible to do what it says because it's so big. It's not like we've had time to go through it and have all the not only our finance people, but Baker Tilly, which is one of the largest municipal financing firms in the world, does a lot of work in Indiana. So they have a lot of horsepower. But they haven't, to my knowledge, have not been able to weigh in detail about what it is and exactly how it works. So yes, it's known, but it's probably not truly known. And how does it actually get implemented in the real world? And when you start tinkering with property taxes, there's a lot of debt backed by property taxes, and then you have the bond holders. So that would be like your mortgage company. So we don't really get mortgages in government; we get bonds. The mortgage holder. So if you lose your job, or if you take a job that you substantially make less money in, your mortgage company wants to know that because their mortgage is not as secure as it was before. That affects your credit rating. The same thing happens in governments when all of a sudden your revenue potentially, or the backing of the guaranteed revenue, changes substantially. They want to know that, and it changes our credit rating. So that's a big deal too. That is unbelievably complicated about how that works. And again, every community is different, because if you have a lot of business personal property tax, your revenue is going to change substantially versus if you just have a lot of residential property tax. So we'll see.
We'll see. That's where we'll leave it.
That's right.
See what happens.
That's right.
More to come maybe next week. We'll know.
We'll see.
That's right. Well, thanks for being in with me this morning.
Yep. Thanks, Emily. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you out and about, if not before next Thursday.
All right. It's 8:06 on Tree Country, 1330.